Hello, hello. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Coach Caris podcast, Itchy, Bitchy, and guests. How are we all? Hope we're well. Today, I'm going to speak about change and the fear of change and why the fear of change and the unknown is one of the biggest destroyer of dreams ever. And firstly, I'm going to read you a blog that I wrote. Right, it's like literally no very long. And I wrote it when I had Moyer's cleaning company. Now, I probably wrote it, I was trying to think in years, about 14 years ago, maybe 14, 15 years ago, right? And it's called Are You Scared of Change? And the headline is, if nothing ever changed, there would be no butterflies. Now, I can't take credit for that. I stole it off of somebody. However, I have got a note down that it's anonymous, so I don't actually know who wrote it. But I want you to remember this. If nothing ever changed, there would be no butterflies. Like, how pretty are butterflies, by the way? Yeah? Anyway, the whole point is change, right? So, are you scared of change? At various points throughout my life, I have been scared. I think we've all been scared, yeah. In the past, it's been very comforting to have my diary planned out to within an inch of its life, and I'm speaking about work and home life. Waking up at the same time, go through the same morning routine, go to work at exactly the same time, stick to your work diary as if your life depended on it. Do your food shopping on the same day of the week, every week, buy the same food, cook the same meals, eat the same takeaways, meet your friends in the same place on the same day at the same time. Blah, 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 blah. Right, now I wrote this when I was particularly stressed. I was stressed for a very long time, chronic stress, right? At least 10 years. Partly due to the being self-employed, I hadn't been doing it for very long, and partly because of the relationship that I was in at the time, right? Now, I actually did used to run my life like this, and it used to give me the fear if anything went off track or if I had to do something different. And the reason for that was because I couldn't actually control my home life because there was somebody else involved in it. So I focused on controlling what I could control. Not ideal, not particularly healthy. And with hindsight, obviously I should have sorted out the house situation and the home situation, but I did not. Anyway, right, that level of control. So it gave me a warm, fuzzy feeling that if I did this, this, and this, the outcome would be that, and that. Right, and it's the same for a lot of people, especially people in, like, I suppose, like being an employee and in the corporate world and the types of jobs. Now we need people that follow processes and follow procedures, right? We're all different. But when it gets to the stage that you're actually obsessive about it and you're doing it because you're not dealing with another situation that's in your life that actually need fixed, then that's not particularly great, right? But if you are doing everything that you've always done, right? Even take out the fact that you might be looking for a different outcome, right? But if you are doing everything and your life is planned to within an inch of its life and you don't cope with change, you don't deal well with change, you don't do anything new and you don't do anything different, right? It's going to get pretty fucking boring pretty fucking quickly. So my response is how very dull, how very uniform, how very boring, and how very safe. Right, now this was fear that was keeping me in this situation. So I would like you not to do this, basically. This is a life lesson, my lovelies. Now, we all need a bit of control and routine at some point, and I'm not suggesting for a minute that we delete our diaries and rip up our plans, but a little bit of living on the edge is always good. It turns out I'm a bit of a rebel these days. Right, remember this was 14 years ago, all right? Obviously, I'm still a rebel, because it's cool to be a rebel, but all right. So you don't need to rip everything up. You don't need to destroy every single bit of routine that you've got. That's not cool. But if there's something in your life that's not happening for you and not making you happy, and you're trying to control every other part of your life without fixing the shit bit, then that's when we've got a problem, all right? Remember, I wrote this for my business, all right? According to a recent survey, 34% of small business companies in the UK believe that they would be out of business in 5 years if they fail to adapt their business model. This would be a classic example of the insanity thing. So doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? And that is very relative to dieting, for example, and fat loss, especially women. We expect to do the same thing and get different results. So we expect to be all over it Monday to Friday, absolutely fall off the wagon at the weekend, and then we'll start again on Monday thinking and hoping that we're going to get different results, when in fact you're not, because you're doing exactly the same thing that you have done for the last week, the last month, the last 3 years. So life is the same. If you want something different, if you want a different outcome or a different result, you need to do something different. That's the law. Anyway, right, despite that, these 34% of small businesses and companies, right, they knew that they were going to be out of business in 5 years' time if they didn't adapt. Right, so what have they done about it? Right, so what you should be doing is they should have rewritten their business plan and embraced change. They should have analysed the market. They should have had a future plan, even a plan A, B, C, D, E and F. Did they? No, they did not. 2% have done the above. 98% are still doing the insanity thing. So think about what you're doing in your life. If you want change in your life, think about what you're doing towards that change. Yeah, I do love a quote. So here is another one for you. A year ago, I would never have guessed my life would be the way it is now. That is very true. And I would say that's been very true for me anyway, for the last 15 years probably, right? I've sold the home relationship situation. I sold the cleaning company. Met Cal, obviously, the love of my life. And we've just, everything's changed. Like, everything's changed. Everything's changed. We're in a different house. We've got different jobs. We've got different training. We're different sizes. We're different shapes. Everything's changed. And again, that's not came from hope, and it's not come from chance. That's because we've made a conscious effort and fucking worked our arses off for it. Right, this is about embracing change, about taking a situation that you are not happy with and having the confidence to change it, about pushing the worry to the back of your mind, about ignoring the fear, and most of all, about living. And then it goes on to blah, blah, blah. We have a plan at Moyers, right, which we did have a plan, and it was awesome. And I grew the business, started it from nothing. 1 van, 2 cleaners, and grew it to 9 vans, 24 cleaners, 2 office staff, a salesperson. So it was quite cool, right? But this podcast is obviously about change, right? And if you're happy in your life and there's nothing in your life that you want to change, that's totally bloody cool. But you're still going to die if you don't change. Like, everything's going to get a bit boring. Your brain's going to regress. Your body's going to... It's just, yeah, just change, right? So I'm going to read this bit again, because this actually, if it's taken out of context, it can sound like I'm just being a total dick and not giving you any context or tips, right? So this is about embracing change, about taking a situation that you are not happy with and having the confidence to change it, right? So a lot of the time it's the unknown that we're scared of, which is perfectly understandable and quite normal, all right? But if you are scared of the unknown and that's stopping you from making any changes, then that's not cool. That's wrong. That's effectively doing nothing. And you know, I love a quote, and I always say this, right? But doing nothing, choosing to do nothing, is still a choice. So using the fact that you've got a fear of the unknown, or you don't know what's going to happen, using that as an excuse to not change or to not make changes in your life it's not acceptable. It's absolutely not acceptable. So what would I say that you do? I would say that you go away and educate yourself, all right? We can all educate ourselves. Knowledge is power, right? Applied knowledge specifically is more power. And the more knowledge you have, the more choices you have, right? One of the reasons, like when you're a teenager and you're at school, right? Like, let's face it, at 14-year-old or 13-year-old, I can't remember when it is, whenever you pick your subjects for your, not all grades anymore, for your exams, All right, you literally have no idea what you want to do. There'll be a small minority of people that know what they want to do at that age, and that's totally cool, right? But most people do not know what they want to do. I mean, how can you know at 13 and 14 what you want to do for the rest of your life, right? But it's not necessarily about that. It's not necessarily about picking the subjects that's going to get you that ultimate job that you know you want in 10 years' time or whatever. It's about giving you choices. So sticking in and getting some qualifications, it's going to give you choices. Of course it is. You probably never used the subjects. I don't think I've ever used anything that I learned. I probably have. Obviously, I have used some things that I learned at school, but I've never had a job to do with anything, any of my exams that I passed. Never. So it's about giving you choices and options. So educating yourself on whatever subject you want to educate yourself on. If it's the subject of fucking divorce, educate yourself on divorce. If it's the subject of a career change, educate yourself on that thing that you want to go and do. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute you go and, like, on a whim, chuck away your 80 grand job and you go and study I don't know, make jewellery or whatever it is that you want to do. But you can totally educate yourself. You can educate yourself on the market. You can educate yourself on being self-employed, on job opportunities, on the actual skills and talent and materials that you need to do that job. Of course you can. You can speak to people. You can Google stuff. Chat GPT is fucking brilliant for stuff like this, all right? You can do part-time college courses. There is so many things that you can do. So many things that you can do to educate yourself, to find out. Like, you might go and educate yourself and think, oh, fuck that sounds like the worst thing in the world ever. And that's okay. It's okay to change your mind. But to go along doing the same thing every day when you're bored out your fucking tits is not cool. So, choosing to do nothing is still a choice, but my favourite. If nothing changes, there would be no butterflies.